Okay, thanks. All right, welcome everybody to the Abington Conservation Commission meeting. Today is March 11th, 2025. The time is 6:31 p.m. First of all, I want to welcome Chris O'Neill. He is our new member of the Conservation Commission. You got sworn in today, right?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. We did have in the agenda the SE 0840576 as the first item. We're going to push it back to the second item because one member of the applicant's firm is stuck in traffic. So we'll get there in a little bit. So we're going to jump for right now into SE 0840565, which is a developer update and discussion of weekly reports for 0 Summer Street, AKA 412 Summer Street. So do we have anybody from the firm, the contractor here?
Yes, I'm trying to be Zoom.
Okay, hi. And what's your name?
Where you got? Sorry, apologies, I couldn't make that out.
What's your name?
My name's Jeff Davies. I work for Wood Partners, and I am the project manager in charge of the Abington Street project. The Summer Street project in Abington, excuse me.
Okay, great. So we called you in here because there's been a number of violations of the order of conditions for this project. It started in December. There was a pre-construction meeting and there were a number of items. I'm just going to read these out because members of the commission, you should all have a copy, but members of the public don't know what they are. So we're going to go through them. So from the pre-construction meeting, it was noted that a silt fence and straw bales were not installed. You were told they needed to be present before clearing the lot. Wetlands flags were missing, and you were told to reflag the area. I have on here that trees must be felled away from the buffer wetlands and pond area and no trees to remain on site, which are not violations at that moment, but will come into play in a minute. That was on the 5th. Fast forward 2 weeks to the 28th of December. The DEP sign was not visible. It was blocked by compost tubes. The wetlands had still not been flagged. The area near the pond had been used as a staging area, even though we told you at the pre-construction meeting that that was not supposed to be used as an area. And we had required that an environmental monitor was to be hired, and that did not happen. So we had a meeting with you. Alex was there, Jean, me, and Nick on the 30th to discuss this. And we were told at the time that, you're sorry about everything. You want to work with the community, just kind of growing pains for the first month. So moving on, we got an environmental monitor who was hired, and she filed a number of reports. So first off, we have, January 3rd, there's construction debris, and I'm just reading off what she wrote. Unused wattles, pallets, light pole, compactor stored within 50 feet of wetlands. On the 10th, repairs to silt fence are needed. On the 10th, trees are felled within 50 feet of wetlands and piled in that area. Tree cutting machine on the 50-foot boundary. The same day, soil actively stockpiled without sediment controls. 5 days later, on the 15th, portion of silt fence fell along train tracks. On the 19th, silt fence along western central boundary was shifting. On the 19th, rubber rings or pallets stored within 50 feet of wetlands. Again, on the 19th, silt fence fallen in by train tracks again. On the 20th, we received a report that equipment was parked within 50 feet of the pond and fueling was occurring next to the pond. On the 7th, silt fence in the southeast corner started to collapse or deteriorate. On February 13th, one truck and one machine was parked within 50 feet of the wetlands. On the 17th, silt fence along sidewalk damaged. There hadn't been environmental reports that were required that were submitted for 2 weeks. We just got them this afternoon.
Yeah, around
Late.
30 this afternoon.
Late, yes, thank you. Somebody reported that there was open trenches and dewatering, and it's unknown. No one communicated with us about that, whether there were sediment controls present or where the water was being pumped to. On Sunday, we got a report there's dirt on the street on the MBTA easement. That wasn't clean. That was supposed to be cleaned at the end of every single day. And then looking through the reports that we just got, we still see issues with silt fence on the western side of the roadway needing to be fixed. An additional wattle needed to be fixed at the northeast corner. There was debris blown up against the fence line within the 50-foot buffer. March 5th, there's again damage to silt fences, several silt fences, additional wattle that was needed apparently hadn't been added after she requested it. There were materials stored again along the fence line. There was soil stockpile within 20 feet with no erosion control. So I would like some explanations for this. My first question is, do you wait for the environmental monitor to tell you that erosion control and sediment control need to be fixed? Or is this something that you note over the course of your work week?
No, we don't wait for Vertex monitor to come out to do those inspections. We can then constantly throughout the week. Our site contractor owns all events, which is continuing to level the erosion controls throughout the duration of the project. We do use we do our own inspections throughout the week, but we also do use a Vertex inspection as a point of additional help for us. Typically, with conservation commission inspections, they are a resource that helps us get in compliance. We do our due diligence ahead of that. It's always been a good relationship that I've always had where they come out, point stuff out that we didn't see, we resolve it the same day. And I believe we've established that with Vertex, and I truly want to get to that point with you guys as well, because we are working on a lot of these items, and I think that answers that question, but I can go into the others if you would like as well.
Well, we're just seeing a pattern of this, and on a construction site like that, shouldn't you have somebody that's responsible for checking all these items on a daily basis and repairing them if need be, rather than wait for Vertex to come out and then correct things?
We do, and that's what our project superintendents do. Sorry, I was getting a bunch of feedback on the mic. So we do have our own people. They do inspections daily, and I believe there's only one item on this list that has not been corrected same day. So we do our own inspections, and it's been a learning process for us. We have allocated some personnel to be responsible. He walks that area 10 times a day and double checks, and that's been a recent implementation that we've done to make sure all our subcontractors know these things, and most of these are outside of the environment. The erosion controls are people doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and we move to correct that immediately and try to implement controls in place so that we don't have those same corrections moving forward. And as a site keeps evolving, we've had a bunch of weather that's been difficult to manage. We have to maintain the cleanliness of the site. The buffer zone is right next to an area, our main entrance to the site. So we do have new people that come on site. The soil stockpile that was dumped there, we've been great with our site subcontractor with putting soil in a good spot. We had a new truck driver who didn't know our MO of the site, and he dumped a pile of dirt in the stockpile area. And we do look to correct those things immediately, but not everything we can fix as it's happening. Some things will be after the fact, and we will do everything in our power to work with you guys, communicate and try to fix those. But we are setting up controls, and it's a constant improvement in our process to get ahead of that. It is a challenge to have a buffer zone within your fence line that people can't even step foot on. So we put up barriers, people pull them down, they dump deliveries there, and we've been constantly, every sub that's been on site at this point knows the drill. It's new people. And I'm going over this in my buyout meetings with subcontractors. I go over it weekly at our PM meetings. And then additionally, when we send out our 3-week look ahead, we go over these controls again with our subcontractors. So we are working to, prevent additional items, coming up on any report. And as far as the erosion control stuff, that's going to be a constant maintenance throughout the project. We fix probably 10 times more items than what you guys see on the list with the erosion controls. It's, with the snow especially, we got to clear the site. Machines hit the silt sack. We don't see it. The next day we will. We'll fix it or replace it. So we are trying to improve. And, like I said, everything except for that one item of one, I think it was an erosion control that wasn't replaced, which should have been, and I'll take responsibility for that. Everything outside of that has been fixed same day. And we put a lot of effort into, making sure that we're in compliance and trying to maintain a good relationship. And I know Nick has been our main point person. And I've had, many conversations with him on these items and how we can improve and what you guys are looking for in certain areas where I was unclear at the beginning and now have understanding. And he's talking with my main site superintendent, I wouldn't say daily, but multiple times a week as well. So I hope that addresses your question.
On site all day?
Apologies, can you say it again?
Are you on site all day if you're the project manager?
I am the project manager. I'm in the office and I have a senior superintendent.
Who's the point person on site all day?
Super.
Then why isn't like McLaughlin here tonight?
Representative of the company was asked to be present and he was unavailable.
Well, if Mike McLaughlin's on site all day, then he should be telling the new drivers where to dump the material. I mean, the site's a big site, but it's not that big. So if someone from your company is on site for the entire time of the workday, then these things should not be happening.
Understood. It is a dynamic environment out there. Actively stop people from putting stuff there, but we do it, and I feel like that's representative for you guys.
Well, I think over the next month or for the month of March, I hope these reports are much better because it's probably not going to be good if we have to call you in again.
Understood. And I sincerely take your comments seriously and, the role of keeping the site in compliance seriously. And we have implemented additional controls that I truly believe will help us fall within compliance there, especially with the buffer zone. I do want to stress the erosion control is going to be a constant maintenance and we do look to Vertex and you guys for, help on items that we have missed and stuff, and everything will be corrected same day. I have confidence the buffer zone issues will be resolved and the erosion control maintenance will be constant throughout, but we will be inspecting multiple times a week and then use Vertex as additional reinforcement to help us.
Inspected on a daily basis, not multiple times a week, on a daily basis, maybe multiple times a day.
Correct.
If you've got someone on site all day, I mean, he's not running a machine, he's not using a hammer, so he should be looking for these things and make sure everything is within compliance.
Understood.
I think what we should do is consider having the environmental monitor come by twice a week. That way we'll know that,
Necessary?
I mean, we've talked to them several times. We had the meeting on the 30th. Nick went there a couple weeks later to say, hey, guys, you guys said that you were experienced with this and you could handle it. It seems like there's a lot going on and the environmental monitor is constantly having to tell you, fix this, don't move this here, don't put this here. We get reports from residents, hey, they're fueling right next to the pond. They're parking within the 50 foot, and that should just be, don't do that. There shouldn't be anything in there. So my recommendation is we have the environmental monitor come by twice a week. If things get to the point where it's going good and we're not having issues anymore, we can bump it back.
So I don't contract directly with environmental monitor, but I can that's obviously this on to the development side as contract with and follow up on guys, but it's not something that I can directly control my contract. Duly noted.
Well, I don't think it's so much a matter of whether you guys make the decision about it. It's in the order of conditions, right? And so all of these things that we're listing out here are violations of the order of conditions. So it is in our judgment about the environmental monitor. So I would like to have, and I see what the rest of the board thinks, having them come by twice a week.
I would
And-
agree. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, there's a big project in town. There's going to be a lot of eyes on it.
There
We have-
are a lot of.
yeah, we have to
We get
answer for
texts
it.
and emails and calls on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I feel that's a reasonable request. Just till the violations come down.
Yeah. So let's try it twice a week for a month.
So our first meeting in April will be 4/8. If you wanted to readdress it then,
Sure.
Yeah.
a little less than a month, but
We'll get a report from Vertex.
Yeah, we get that. Nick will send that to you
Okay.
every week. Yeah.
I'll get you on the email step.
Thank you.
And those reports need to come in weekly, not,
Yeah,
oh, we
exactly.
did, sorry, this is the next 3 weeks. Sorry, we didn't give it to you. We need to see, I want to see a report that has no violations on it before we consider bumping it back to just once a week.
I will pass that on to Vertex. I, again, control their reporting structure, but understood, I pass that on. We need to have reports submitted in a more timely fashion.
Who does control Vertex and who hires Vertex and who decides when they're there? Is it you as the general contractor or is it us as the board?
The development side of our company has the contract with Vertex for the monitoring. And it was based on, like the order condition and the criteria are in there.
So they're technically supposed to be independent, but they're paid by the developer.
Yep.
So I don't know.
So
if we
I
need
was just saying, in terms of the reporting, I'll follow up with there. I wasn't even aware that you guys were not getting reports in a timely manner, so I'll follow up there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to have a vote for this?
I make a motion to require the developer to have Vertex out there twice a week
Okay.
for them. And we'll revisit it at our first April meeting, which is April
The 8th.
8th.
Right. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Thank you.
One
Thank you.
abstentions.
Sorry.
Stay.
Yep, AJ and
Both of you.
John both abstained. Okay. All right, thank you. Has the applicant still not here? Well, we can go ahead and move on.
Yeah, just move on to the next thing.
All right, so we're just going to wait. We're going to skip on to the request for determination of applicability submitted by Anna Rita Pascal. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Director of Environmental Keola's Commuter Services for Vegetation Management Plan along MBTA right-of-way. Do we have anybody there from Keolis?
Yeah, hi, this is Matt Donovan, Advantage, representing Keolis.
Hi. So I understand you gave us something new? We got some.
Yeah, very slightly a change in the area of your concern near the station north of Summer Street. I just added a blue zone to incorporate that wetland that is within 100 feet of the track. Other than that, to me, it looks to be marked accurately, and I understand from what Nick says, there's a lot of concern in the water, the DEP zone 2, in the southern portion of the maps. But to me, that looks to be marked in conformance with the regulations, and I'd be happy to go over any concerns or questions you guys may have.
Are you referring to page 4 where there's Summer Street? Is that what you're talking about?
The change he's referring
Yeah.
to is right.
No, in terms of the concerns, sorry,
Yeah. So
the concerns Nick had.
the change he's referring to is at the bottom of page 4, onto page 5, top of page 5. The area of concern, which I put out to everyone for what we had, we're looking for changes. AJ got back to me. His two main points were the culvert right at Summer Street intersection, and then pretty much from Woodlands Way to the Whitman line, which is the area where the town wells are.
Oh, yeah, I see that. That's taken care of. So what determines whether you're going to have no spray or 1 year spray or 2 year spray?
That would be in the regulations. It's all in CMR 11.04 or all the sensitive area restrictions and setbacks would be. And that DEP zone 2 automatically triggers a once every 24-month roadbed application, which is just the application that applies the chemicals directly on the track, 12 feet from the center line of the track.
So can you give me examples? So for example, I'm looking at page 2 and you see there's a area, almost half of the area is in yellow. Then you see a small segment that's blue, but I don't see any differences between, why does it suddenly turn blue there? There's the wetland still there. Page, oh, it's page 1 because it said page 2 at the bottom. It's one by Adams Street. Can you give me an example of why that's blue rather than yellow? Why does it suddenly stop?
Yeah, so yellow is triggered by a 10-foot. You're not allowed, yellow signals no spray, and that is when you can't spray at all within 10 foot of a wetland buffer. So that would be where it's yellow, and then where it gets to be greater than 10 feet, it would turn into blue. Blue is between 10 and 100 feet of a wetland. You can only spray once per year.
Right. I'm not seeing any difference in this blue area. There's a small little segment that isn't a wetland, but there's still a segment that's right up against the wetland line that I see.
Yeah, and that would just have to do with the center of track to the wetland itself. If it's within 22, the center of track is within 22 feet of the wetland edge, it would automatically trigger that yellow zone. So probably what happens there is that it extends beyond the 22 foot from the center line of track where they would be allowed to spray onto the shoulders of the track.
Okay.
And it does look like, I mean, it's hard to tell, but I would assume that's what it looks like in the field there. And if you would like, we could extend those yellows a little further south to incorporate the rest of that wetland. But
I think that would be a good idea.
And was there any other areas that you would like to go over?
Right on the same page at the very bottom, where it says page 2, and there's that little blue area. There's a little wetland right there that has nothing. Is that because it's too far away?
I would say that's right on the edge of being 100 feet away. But that is something where I think we would be okay with extending that blue zone north to the top of that green wetland. That's just above the wetland that is marked. It's not near a crossing or anything, so that seems to be fine to not receive the brush program.
Okay.
So right now, just to summarize, on page one, we can extend the outside yellows adjacent to Adams Street slightly south to basically the end of the blue. And at the south side of the page, we'll extend that blue zone north a couple 100 feet to incorporate that wetland.
Okay. Yes. The rest of the board have any comments, questions?
I think if we go sheet by sheet, it's probably the easiest way to keep
Okay.
it clean. But
Okay,
so
that
sheet
sounds
one,
good. Anything for sheet one? No?
Well, he's gonna extend those.
Yeah, it's gonna extend that and that. Sheet two,
I don't have a problem with sheet.
yeah, there's pretty much nothing there.
This is sheet one. Yes, it goes into extension. of sheet two.
Okay. Sheet three,
I think that's okay.
anything? Okay, sheet four, oh,
Sheet four is one of the updated ones.
that's
too.
the updated,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're looking at-
Hancock Street where
Yes, 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 yes.
Hancock Street is, that's actually not Hancock Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see that the blue has been things have been added. That was I'd circled that in red, so. Okay, it's got good. Everybody okay with that update?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think the last sheet, this is another
Should be another
update.
new one.
Right.
Okay. That's been extended. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, so I would just ask that they give us, email us an updated copy
Here.
of page one
This one.
with the extensions you mentioned.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. Have that be the maps that we'll use for the
Okay.
what I would request is that would be done as a condition if we can still make a determination tonight if your commission is amenable to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you, assuming we vote on it after the fact, get the maps over, we'll have chair sign off on them,
Right.
the minor changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And you want a 5-year extension?
Yes, that's for the vegetation management. It's a 5-year plan.
Is that, I'm just curious, because usually we do 3 years. Why is it 5 years?
So yeah, determinations are typically 3 years, but right on the DOA Form 2, it says these are good for 3 years, except for vegetation management plans, which is a 5-year determination.
Okay,
We've had a series of 5-year
thanks.
determinations on this.
Okay,
It's every, on 0, on the 5,
yeah,
they come before us.
Yeah, I'm good as long as we get the updated plan.
okay.
Page one.
Anybody have any comments?
Make a motion for a negative determination, subject to
The-
providing the updated plan.
Want a positive 2A, approving the maps, and then a negative.
So those two different motions?
One motion,
Or
we're confirming the maps, and then doing a negative determination.
Okay, so, positive, well, so how do you want the motion to read?
Making a positive determination of the maps, 2A, negative determination based on 310 CMR, and 310 CMR.
Okay.
They have exemptions.
All right, so positive determination on the maps and negative determination on 310 CMR, per 310 CMR 10-03, 6B, and 310 CMR 10-58, 6A.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Matt.
So we still waiting? You good?
Everybody's here? We're ready? Okay. All right, so this is SC 0840576, notice of intent filed by MP Design Consultants for residential subdivision with wetland crossing and 3 single-family lots located at 4454 Linwood Street. So, we have had this NOI before us for a little while. We had asked the applicant to notify the abutters. Because of a lack of response, we asked them to notify again, I believe that was November. Okay, for December and January hearings. The hearings were continued. We received some complaints that abutters were not notified. And there were some other complaints that were additionally made about MP Design Consultants. So what I'd like to do is I'd first like to hear from the abutters about their thoughts or complaints, and then we will give the applicant time to respond. After that, we'll bring it back to the board for a discussion. One thing is that we do have a peer reviewer who is a neutral party that we hired, serves as a special town employee, who's going to be looking at all of this. I told him about what's been going on, and I'm going to send him a link to the recording. It's on YouTube, but I'm just going to send that to him. So some of what people might want to tell us about are things they didn't have a chance to talk to before in prior meetings, because you guys are the ones who live right there, you know the site, and so you might have information that could be helpful for us and for him in making a judgment on the proposals. So with that being said, whoever wants to speak, you can come up to the podium. You'll have to say your name and your address.
Well, do you want him to give his presentation first?
I don't know if we want to give the presentation. I think people have already seen it.
I think he should have a chance to give a review on it.
Okay. We can go ahead and do that first. So you can give a review of what the proposal is. Then the abutters will speak. You will be able to respond, and then we will bring it back to the commission to discuss.
I mean, the whole.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Carlos Ferreira. I'm from MP Design Consultants. I'm the engineer proposing this project. The whole thing has been like a little bit confusing. I mean, we presented these plans, I guess, like almost like 2 or 3 times. You know, and then we have to re-notify the abutters, which is like, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, people like need to, once the project is proposed, I mean, they need to follow up. I mean, if they have interest on
Well,
it.
in the neighbor's defense, there were several meetings you were scheduled to be at and you didn't show up. And that's what I said in November.
Yes,
If you're gonna, so what I would have done is I would have taken you off the agenda, period, and made you refile. But we gave you a break and said just re-notify the abut, because you didn't show up when you were supposed to. So don't say it's us and it's confusing. You were not here when you were scheduled to be on the agenda.
but then we presented the plans. You guys wanted to introduce like another consultant, which a peer review, which we agree on it. I mean, I don't know if like the people in here for this particular project, I mean, there's their interest. We didn't change anything on our proposal. Still like it's a cul-de-sac with 3 lots at the end of it. I guess like there's a whole discussion about like the buffer. You want to make the pond into like a riverfront buffer, and I think like that was like the end of the discussion. We don't believe that there is a riverfront buffer, and then we stand by our project on it. I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, you guys have a chance to see the project and review it. Now we're gonna bring like another consultant. We also brought in, we have like an environmental person that's gonna, be working with us to rebut whatever questions this peer review has it. But I mean, we didn't receive like from anybody, we don't have like any additional comments or any things that you guys want to, I mean, can we accommodate this? Can we make a change of some sort on the project? I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing that there's butters have like concerns or questions about the project. I mean, we can address them, I mean, as soon as we get notified that that there's concerns or questions about. I mean, I'm here and I can answer that. I mean, I don't know, like, is everybody here for this particular project? I mean,
Do you mind, do I have to?
So, hold on one sec. If you're finished, then we'll bring them up.
Yes.
And let them finish, and then,
Okay.
either us or you can answer them,
Yes.
okay? So the first one can come up and state your name and address, please.
If you want to take a seat.
No,
that's
it's
fine.
okay. My name's Elise McMenamin. I live at 9 Hunts Pond Lane. So I was one of
Can
the
you
ones.
speak closer to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Yeah. So I was one of the ones that submitted a complaint. So I think there might have been some inaccuracies in what was said of their plan, right? So when we first heard of the project, it was 4 houses that were going to be built. There was issues with that, and now it's down to 3 houses. But when you look at it, it was bought as a 2-plot zone. So, there's that comes into play. And so, sorry, not used to public speaking in a town. It's not my
You're doing
MO.
great.
You're doing great. We won't bite.
So, but then when, my husband has been coming to every meeting and we were not notified, we got a letter that the zoning board, which Nick, educated me, 2 separate boards, rejected the application.
Sorry, just planning board.
Planning board. And so then the meeting that they happened to come to in January, which I don't think any abutters came to, there were false statements made that they talked to neighbors, specifically at 11 Hunts Pond Lane, that they were in favor of the project. So the issues that come into play is that they're trying to build more houses than I think is properly zoned for. There's the aspect of the sustainability of, cutting down all of those trees and the changes that it's going to make to the ecosystem. And what's the plan to rebuild them? We've personally tried to plant more trees in that area, and we have not been successful. And then I think we need to obviously bring up the beaver that lives in the pond. And we actually confirmed last night there's 2 beavers.
Oh.
So obviously it's mating season, so there's probably a colony. So I think that's probably important to bring into, and where's their den? I think that if you're taking down those trees, you're going to change the ecosystem and their habitat, and maybe force them onto other people's properties to find the trees that they're gnawing down to build their habitat. And then there's concerns with the drainage systems that they want to build, and what's going to be the maintenance of those drainage systems, because if they're not properly taken care of, it can have negative impacts on the ecosystem. So I think those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
So, Nick, the zoning denied this project?
The planning
Planning.
board did.
The planning board denied it.
Yes.
So is your plan to go back to planning board?
My
Come
understanding
up
of,
to the microphone, please.
my understanding what happened is while this
Yes.
NOI was being the hearing was ongoing, that planning asked them to come, give us information, what's going on. They didn't respond. And so they denied them for lack of a response.
Oh, I see.
But not based on the merits.
Okay.
Yes, we have to, once we clear with conservation, we have to go back to planning board. But we're not asking for any variances or anything on the plan. Whatever we're doing here is by right.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak? Yes.
Hi. My name is Lisa Aiello. I live at 11 Hunts Pond Lane. So I just wanted on the record, I want it in the minutes that I do not support any part of the project that puts my home into a buffer zone. I became aware of this when I watched the meeting from January 14th at the 35-minute mark. The developers were stating that they had numerous conversations with me about this, and I was okay with that portion of the project, putting my home into the buffer zone. I've never had one conversation with these people. I don't even know them. So I just would like to state that. And that's really all I want to say about that piece of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Please.
Good evening. My name's Richard Hanna, 143 Mill Street. I have to give kudos to you for allowing these people to come in late. If they worked for me, I would have fired them. I mean, unless they just came from the moon, they know what 495, 95, 128, all is all about. And you're keeping all the people who live around you waiting for this. And this isn't the first time. So, anyways, go back to my concerns. My house is on Mill Street, so I abut that property about 300 feet. Right on the other side of the stone wall, there's marsh. We talked about this before. It fills up with water. Now, I know Gene made a great point the last couple of meetings about you take trees down, trees absorb the water. We're going to have problems. My land, and his land is worse than mine, is 15 feet below that knoll where they want to put that house. I have some certain things I want to see if I can straighten it out here. You talked about a dam being taken down. Do you realize that dam doesn't belong to us, only half of it? Half of it's Brockton. Do you know how the dam was put up? You do?
No, I'm
Okay.
just nodding, saying yes, go
1945,
ahead.
there was a hurricane there. I've got a witness right here. And what happened is, it flooded out that street. So they got together with Brockton and built that dam. So to pull that dam out and make it a stream. Now, this person that's sitting over there I'm 75. She's older than me. She's never seen a stream in there. It was before her time. Her father talked about it. And, it's been there forever. The way our budget is in this community, we're never going to be able to pay for that. I mean, we're going to let teachers go. We're going to let firefighters go. We're going to let police go, possibly, if we can't come up with $1 million. So that is far-fetched. The gentleman that was here the last meeting jumped on that when you said that. And he said, well, if it's going to be a stream, then we don't have to worry about it. Well, the sun may come up tomorrow, or it may not come up tomorrow. Same thing with that pond. So the thing that I understood from the last meeting, that these gentlemen were supposed to do some tests to see the flow of that pond and also the habitat. Now, I don't know if they've done that. The pond still has ice on it, not solid, so I don't know if you can, I'm a telephone guy, so I don't do these things, so I don't know if you can do these type of tests, but I am totally against this. As I said before, they wanted to build, I think he's the fourth owner of this property, and it's gotten nowhere, so that's what I wanted to say.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heidi Foley, 55 Linwood Street, so I'm right across the street from where the street will be. So I received a letter on November 25th from the town saying that the application was denied because the developer did not address all of the comments from all of the meetings before. And that's why it was denied. After this November 25th letter, the next time I got a letter was a couple of days ago for this meeting, along with the complaints from the people on Hunts Pond Lane and stuff. So we thought it was done. And it looks like they're trying to resurrect it without starting at the beginning again. And one of my issues is that the street that they're going to make is a little bit wider than a driveway. And and if I remember right, they're going to have a sidewalk on one side and rocks or bushes on the other side. And it won't be wide enough for any type of ambulance or fire engine or any type of emergency vehicle if people are parked on the sides of the street. And it's on the slope of the small hill that goes down. That street gets very slippery when it's snowing, when it's icy, and it's in a blind spot for anybody coming from Groveland Street down to Mill Street will not see any of the cars coming out of that street because it'll look like a driveway. So that was one of my biggest concerns.
Okay, so, and I understand those concerns, but those concerns are a planning board issue, not a conservation issue. And as far as notification, the reason we've asked them to re-notify a couple of times is because there was a lot of confusion on it. But Nick had gone through the abutters list that they get from the assessor, and everyone was notified. Several people did not pick up the certified mail letter. So there's nothing the applicant can do if you don't pick it up. But we have receipt, and I'm not saying you did or didn't, but the way the process works is the applicant has to go to the assessors. They give the abutters list, depending on conservation, planning, or zoning, they could be different, you know, so many feet or whatever, or direct abutters. So whatever the criteria is for conservation, assessors give the applicant that they have to send the letters to all of those people. And the white receipt has to go to us, and we compared it, Nick compared it to the list. So everyone that was supposed to get it was sent a letter. Whether or not they all picked it up, that's a different thing.
For January? For the
yes.
January appointments?
No, for the initial August and then for this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But what about November?
I didn't get anything for that.
Yeah.
I went to 2 or 3 of the planning board meetings. I missed your first meeting because I was sick, and then the next letter was this.
Yeah, okay.
Saying that
So
the
I think there
application
was some people that didn't get notified that should have get notified when I asked them to do that in November.
Okay.
And that's why they were told to do it again for this meeting. And that's why we checked. So that's why everyone that got it recently, that's the reason. Because we do think there was something missed with the November notification.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, my name's George Mentis. I live at 149 Mill Street. I am the lowest one on the water table. I'm just concerned about if this development does go in, what's my guarantee that I'm not going to get water in my cellar, or I'm not going to get flooded out because of him tearing all these trees down and basically disturbing the whole water table? I'm not getting any water. I've been there 30-something years. I've never got water down my cellar. He puts a development in there. Okay, I get water in my cellar. Who am I going to go to? Do I got to eat this? I mean, who do I got to fall back on? Water, ice, rain? Okay, they're going to build these levees. They're going to do all this stuff, water drainage. Who's going to take care of it after they're gone? Who's going to maintenance it? Who's going to clean it? All this water's going to turn to ice. Roads are going to be there. It's going to get plowed. Where they're going to put the snow? I'm the lowest one. It's going to melt. It's going to come to me. Who do I got to fall back on? I got nothing. That's my concern. That's what I have to do with it. And I like my wildlife. I like the pond. I have geese in my yard. The geese come every year. I love my geese. They walk through my yard. I have no problems with it. Beavers, I love them. Everything's there. I got the best of everything. Why change it? I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Nobody else? Okay. The applicant, you can come up and to speak.
Yes. Matt Morrow is like our environmental consultant for the project.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. First of all, I'd like to apologize for being late. I actually come from Leominster, and I did leave like a little over 2 hours early to account for traffic. And unfortunately, the Dedham Norwood section of 95 taught me a little bit different. It was a very bad accident, but fortunately, it looked like no one was hurt. I've never met you guys before, so just to give you a little background on myself, I am a certified professional wetland scientist. I am a professional wastewater treatment plant operator and an EPA certified stormwater inspector. I have been practicing for over 35 years. For 32 years, I was also blessed to be a full-time conservation agent and a part-time consultant. Now it's reversed over the last few years. And I am also a member of the Sterling Conservation Commission. So I've been on both sides of the table, so I understand where you guys are coming from on the abutter notification. I worked with MP Design to make sure that the list was complete, that the list was from the assessor's office, and that it went out on the deadline that, you know, staff had relayed to us that they wanted it out. So I made sure that that also got in so that that was taken care of. I've reviewed the proposal by Mr. Rockwell, who has a reputation that precedes him. John's taught a lot of classes with a lot of my colleagues over at the MAC seminars on wetland delineation. Really, really talented gentleman that you've got on this. So I look forward to working with him on this. I've reviewed his proposal. I have asked that at all times when he goes on the site that I be present. A lot of that has to do with, one, I just want to see what he's saying and talk to him about it. I figured maybe being out on site would be better than sitting there trying to waste time exchanging letters and emails back and forth. So usually when two professionals go out and talk, we can do that. I did notice on his proposal in the last section of it, he talked about extras that might be included, including the wetland delineation review. I'm assuming that that's a boilerplate condition because there is a valid ORAD on this property right now for the BVW that actually has been extended by the governor's legislation to 2027. So the BVW line is currently certified under an ORAD for this property. So if he doesn't know that, I mean, I can get him documentation for that if you guys don't. The other items that he has on there, you know, checking for the vernal pools, there are other items he doesn't list that I would like to discuss with him. The tree replantings, the placement of the trees. I'm hearing a lot about beavers. In my reading of the history of Hunts Pond, there has been a lot of beaver activity out there from my reading of it. It's quite the beaver haven. So the commission wanted to check out the impacts on that. I don't have any issues with that at all. As a matter of fact, I think the scope that was put out was excellent. I think it's thorough, and I think that we can come to terms with it and give a good once-over on that. I wanted to come by, introduce myself. Again, thank you for the latitude. It's not lost on me that you gave me a little flexibility due to a traffic issue. So I wanted to tell you guys that I do appreciate that, and that the concerns that the residents have expressed tonight, I will take into account, and I know Mr. Rockwell will take those into account. So, as well as what I've seen on the tapes that the commission has expressed its concerns. If there's any items you wanted to express to me to look for, I'd be happy to hear them.
Go ahead.
Night, yeah. I'm going to get to this, but one thing that I forgot to do was received a letter from Dan and Marilyn Breelman, who could not be here tonight. I did not get a chance to read their letter, so I'm going to do so now. My wife Marilyn and I created a wildlife sanctuary many years ago at 222 Linwood Street in Abington, Massachusetts. We left our backyard natural and provided seed, suet, corn, nuts, and water for the birds and animals. In the last few years, we've seen an increase in the numbers of wildlife in our yard. This corresponds to increased development in our area. This affects the natural ecosystems that were the habitat and food source for these birds and animals. At least 13 male turkeys made our yard their home most of last year and come regularly for food and water. Not only are they losing their homes, they're losing their access to the resources they need to survive. We understand the need for development and homes for people, but we also know that we have to be smart about where and how we develop. People want to live in nature, but if we continue to develop our last remaining natural areas, meadows, woods, uplands, the places where these birds and animals live, there'll be none left. This is why we believe further development of our natural areas, crowding in homes beyond the capacity for this town to remain livable, is not what we should be allowing. So I needed to get that one in thing. So in terms of the feasibility of the project, that's something that our peer reviewer will be looking at. So we're not going to discuss the feasibility of that tonight. I thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, I wasn't looking for that, Madam
Right.
Chair. With all due respect, I know you guys have your own concerns as well that may not be expressed in the review, and I may have missed on the tapes. I just wanted to know if there was anything particularly that was of overriding concern to you guys.
I have a big concern with creating a replication area abutting a neighbor who does not have a wetland buffer zone now. That's my biggest concern.
Gotcha.
I think you should find another place that you're not impacting the neighbors.
Okay.
And if it means reducing it to 2 houses, then that might be what you have to do.
Okay.
But I have a big problem with that. You're creating a hardship for the neighbors for a financial gain.
Okay, I'll examine that one, Mr. Rockwell.
The other issue I have, which you can't address, and I don't know if you can address because your colleague said it, is what Ms. Aiello, excuse me, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, okay, mentioned about saying that she had been contacted and she had not. I mean, I wrote down, I went back, and it was at minute 37 exactly, where your colleague said, Eduardo is the owner of the project. The people, the neighbors in the back, you have contact with, but later, okay, it's Aiello, is that? Yeah. So they're aware of it. Eduardo is contacting them daily. They actually like the project. They want the project to come up. So do you have any, you weren't the one who said that. I don't know where Mark is, because he's the one who said
I
that.
don't know for sure, the neighbor, but I been on the property when I was like doing the soil testing. I don't know if that's the same people. Are you the direct abutter to the right of the project?
Well, the fact is that.
I mean, I had,
Likes the project.
I had conversation with a gentleman that lives next to the project, and he was okay, and actually one of the persons that actually offer interest in buying the property from it. I mean.
So you're
he's not here
contacting him
today,
daily?
but, I mean, I don't know about contacting daily,
I mean, that's what he said.
yeah, but I mean, we did have that conversation here on Town Hall, outside on the parking lot. And he had,
That was me and my dad. We didn't support the project. We said it falls through, we'd be interested in purchasing the property.
yeah,
But we never said we supported the project.
then maybe it was a misunderstanding of our part.
It seems like a lot of disregard for the board, our requests and our questions.
Yeah.
Because I explicitly asked, so you've spoke with these neighbors and they're okay with a buffer being created on their property? And the answer was yes, they've been told and they're on board with it. And I said, I have a hard time believing that. And we were told they're on board and been told. And as you can see, now they are here saying that that's not the case at all. If you're not sure which neighbor it was you spoke to, then that shouldn't have been an answer that was given at the meeting.
I've yet to seen a butter that actually agrees with any of these plans at all.
Yeah.
I've not heard one abutter in favor of this.
For the record, has any of our requests been followed through correctly?
What do you mean?
Which request?
Notification
told them this
requests,
time-
anything we have asked them to do, has any of it been followed through correctly?
I'm not sure about the November. We
They
haven't been. given
disregard
any
their scheduled
receipts.
appointments, they disregard the notifications. There is some serious disregard for the board. It's almost like they're taking us as a joke.
Well, there's that too, but one of the things that kind of, I believe the abutters of what's being said. One thing that I found concerning that made me a little bit on the beyond feeling lied to was also the implication by your colleague that peer review had been done when my colleague Jean was questioning it, saying it had been peer reviewed. When someone tells me something has been peer reviewed, as a scientist myself, that usually means it's been done and it's been approved. But I knew that wasn't the case. And I mentioned that. And I went back to planning and I said, maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I didn't read those emails. And I said, was I right? And she said, no, you're absolutely correct. So there was this attempt to kind of sway us from making comments about peer review, which I found to be a little bit discomforting. And it's things like that that make me wonder about this in the first place. Like, what else are there hidden things? What's going on here? Because I don't even know if what I can believe here.
We submitted the plans for planning board. They did have a reviewer for the plan, and we had comments from the reviewer for the plan, and apparently the guy retired right after, so we're gonna have to resubmit for planning board again, and probably is gonna be another professional that's gonna review, but it did get reviewed. I mean,
And in your proposal,
Yes.
we have the back and forth. The reason it came to us and they asked you to come to us
Yes.
is because the questions about tree replacement
Yep.
in the town bylaw versus the tree replacement we have that just covers wetlands.
Yep.
So their peer reviewer for stormwater wasn't going to make a final decision until those numbers were going to be kind of set in stone, that we had said, this is how many should be in our opinion. So for your colleague to say it had been peer reviewed, and I knew that wasn't the case, that really rubbed me the wrong way.
It was reviewed for drainage, it was reviewed for
It
conformance
is
with
not, but it
like
wasn't
the-
finished, right? It
was-
hadn't been approved.
So it's,
Because, I mean, we had to come back to conservation to go back to planning.
so it's
Correct.
under review, it's not reviewed.
Okay,
Big difference.
Language is important.
okay.
It is important.
So based on what Carlos has told me and what Mark Allen Carr has told me as well, is that it's going to have to be resubmitted to the planning board. And upon resubmission, they will have another peer reviewer go out and engage on that. So I'm assuming that Mr. Rockwell is also going to probably review those materials that the planning board
No,
reviewer will do
no.
as well.
The planning board has
He's
this,
gonna do a separate one, and that's fine.
they have completely separate, it's got nothing to do with conservation.
And that's fine, so.
They're not going to review conservation issues. They're going to review the street, the sidewalk, the drainage, and stuff like that. That's got nothing to do with conservation, and we have nothing to do with planning.
So as far as the trees go, I know, Madam Chair, you had mentioned about the difference between conservation standard for tree planting and town bylaw standard for tree planting. And that's one of the objectives I have to resolve, both with the town and with the peer reviewer. The correct number of trees to satisfy the regulatory requirements of the town, and the most optimal place to plant them where they have the best chance of survival, as well as a monitoring plan. The monitoring plan is going to have to be part and parcel, along with a wetland replication plan, with
Right.
a monitoring plan. So those are the types of items that I've been asked to examine with Mr. Rockwell. And considering his experience with wetland resource areas, I think him and I can have a very productive conversation, because I do a lot.
And I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that.
So.
But what I'm upset about is that we've been lied to. We have been lied to. And there are consequences for actions. We can't deny the project because we've been lied to. But we do have a peer reviewer, and while his scope is limited, I don't feel very confident about this, given the behavior of your colleague. So my thought is that we increase the scope of what the peer reviewer will be doing, so that we can feel confident. So get more information from the peer reviewer.
Also, I wanted to point out to our defense, in terms of like this whole confusion between November and where we are today. I mean, now we've been in constant communication with Nick, and, you know, like, Abington is not the only town that we work, and we have like no problems with communication with every other town that we work. And we had like some issues with communication with whoever was prior Nick in here, that created the whole incident with like, and that person was also the same person who was taking care of like, the planning board. You know, we submitted letters requesting extension, that was never analyzed, and then the planning board just decided to like deny the plan.
We don't even want to hear.
Maybe this isn't a good town, then.
Okay, this is conservation, it's not planning board.
Yep.
Okay? So you did the same thing with planning board that you did to us. You were supposed to be there and you didn't show up. So that's why I told you in November to re-notify the abutters.
Did you notify
And
all the
apparently,
abutters?
some of them weren't re-notified, and that's why you were told to do it again for this meeting. And now that the abutters thing has been straightened out,
Yes.
all the abutters have received notification, or at least been sent something, whether they picked them up or not, I don't know. And that's out of your control, that's out of our control.
Yes.
Your job is to notify them, which you did. No one is complaining about that.
Yes.
And just so everyone knows, if we continue this tonight, you will not be notified again. This will be your notification. So,
He's here every 2 weeks.
well, whatever we
That's scheduled.
Decide.
did, yeah, so.
So if I may, really quick, one of the things I've also been retained for, and I've asked Nick to make sure I've been copied.
You need to step up to the mic if you're going to
Yeah,
speak.
just so we can-
I'm sorry.
People, or it's being recorded.
I'm sorry. Again, just to make sure that when I was retained, one of the things I had asked was to make sure that Nick copied me on all the communications. So I'm going to be monitoring the communications between, planning board is not really what I've been hired for, but conservation. So I'm going to be monitoring communications between conservation and the engineering company to make sure that no miscommunications happen going forward. I worked with the engineering company to make sure that the abutter notifications were put out in the timely manner that you asked for, and that the list was complete and accurate. And then when I had them send me I had them email me the scanned postage stamped white slips that went out with the certified mail. They sent me a copy of the notice that went out, so I ensured its accuracy, and then reviewed the list and sent them to, Nick, to make sure that he knew that everything was out in the time frame that you asked for. And
And
that's
that was
going to be
done,
part of
and
my
Nick said it
function,
was
to work
done,
to make
yes.
sure that that happens. So I would just emphasize any communications that you have with anybody that is from the team, just make sure I'm copied, so that I can help to monitor the activity to make sure that, nothing else happens moving forward. I wasn't present for what happened prior. I was asked to come in and work with the town and the town's peer reviewer. I'm just curious as to what you might want to do for an expansion of scope, which, it's fine. I just, more curiosity than anything else. And I'll be happy to address whatever you guys need to be addressed
Well,
with
like I
with
said,
Mr. Rockwell.
one big issue we have is the replication area, or at
Yep.
least I have. So I think you need to review it and give us a date and when you would like this continued to.
And I would recommend, you have a lot of issues out here, that people that need things addressed, and, the gentleman in the back, I'm sorry I forget your name, but something to maybe help George out with his water. You're telling us this town's difficult to work with and everything. Coming into our town and building, maybe you need to work with us a little bit, and, we're happy to work with you, but there's a lot of concerns out there.
No, and I hear them, and in hearing the concerns, my initial impression is that they're addressable, and that working.
And I would
with
agree.
the
I think they
town-
are all addressable, but
and
they,
working with the town's reviewer, we can work to address those. as long, I just like to be informed of whatever the expansion and scope you guys propose, so I can prepare for it.
Okay.
And working with them. I don't have an issue.
So I have some ideas for the expansion. You mentioned there's still an ORAD in effect. Right?
That is correct.
Right. It would have expired at the
In May.
end of April, early May, right? So it's been 3 years since, more than 3 years since the wetland line has been reviewed. So we're not going to ask you for, can't ask you for another ANRAD, but we can ask for the line to be reviewed by the peer reviewer. The other thing is, I had mentioned potential riverine characteristics for the pond. I already talked about that with the peer reviewer, so I want the pond tested for that. The other thing is, this is the first project we've had before us since we implemented regulations 2 years ago that has been encroaching into the 35-foot no disturb and the 50-foot no build, and also is going to be proposing to fill in wetlands. In our regulation, we say if you're going to make that encroachment, we may require a wildlife habitat review. We may require a vegetative survey. So we hadn't discussed that, and we've never asked for that from anyone, given the site. It's pretty large. We have issues where concerns for wildlife. My proposal would be to have a wildlife habitat survey performed, as well as the vegetative survey. So those are the 4 things I can think of that would expand the scope of the peer review and give me some information that I could think could be actually of use.
Okay, well, that would come under provision 8, where the reviewer says any other task the commission deems necessary.
Correct.
So,
And if he wants to go out and look for vernal pools, he can go out and look for vernal pools.
yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I just want to make sure I time it, because if there's something there, I'll need to take a look at what's out there and its extent.
Right, yeah.
Because then it's going to be up to me, if there is a vernal pool on site, he's not going to be the one to delineate it for us. I'm going to have to delineate the extent of the vernal pool, and he would have to come back and agree with it.
Yeah.
So, when looking at this, it looks like a lot of it, of what you're asking for, is actually kind of built in by inference into his scope. So, fleshing that out is fine. I kind of, what you asked for, I kind of assumed I was going to do with him on site, so.
Okay, because when I talked to him and I told him what was going on, and he had mentioned he was going to go out and do a tree count, but he acknowledged the ORAD still in effect. I don't think he had planned on going through and checking the wetland line as a result, but I believe we should ask him to do that, as well as the wildlife habitat survey, the vegetative survey, checking on vernal pools, and testing for riverine characteristics of the pond, so we can make a determination about the Rivers Protection Act.
Okay, so
Seeing
if he
there's
wants to
any-
take a look at the wetland line, I don't have a problem with that, but the line is locked. Legally, the line
Yes.
is locked.
Yes, I understand. I understand that.
I mean, I'm more than happy to go out and get muddy and with my
But if we
auger.
find out, for example, he says, well, you want to put a replication area in a wetland.
In a wetland, yeah.
Then that's going to be an issue.
And again,
So I
that's-
want to see, is this accurate or is this not accurate? That's the thing. I
And
want
again, that would
I
go to
want
the
more
review
data.
Of the replication area. I've reviewed replication areas myself, where I've gone out and I've found the same thing. You're proposing a replication area in an area that's already wet.
Yeah, and we've had that happen here too.
Yep.
Where we've had, it was off by 100 feet. And so we had to say, no, you can't do it there. So that's where I'm coming from, is that I want as much data as we possibly can from the neutral party that we have hired, who is our employee. And thoughts? Sorry, I've been dominating.
Have you actually physically been on the site yet, and any concerns? Have you?
I was on briefly. I haven't had a chance to take a good look at it. It was covered in snow, and I really don't like looking at sites covered in snow. Plus, I kind of slipped and fell too, so.
We already have winter delineation regulations, so we don't accept anything that's done until April 1st anyway, so.
So what is a time frame that you would want this continued to?
When is your first April meeting?
April 8th?
April
Okay.
8th, yes.
So we're obviously not going to be concluded anything by April 8th. I mean, this is going to be, for what my client has put forth and paid for money, it's going to be, labor intensive between the two of us. And it's going to be a little time consuming, but I'd at least like to be able to report at the April 1st meeting, at least file a status report so that you guys, along with Mr. Rockwell, so that we all know what's been reviewed so far, where it's going, and maybe any preliminary findings that we have that we may have to address. And it doesn't hurt to continue to keep the lines open to communicate with each other on this stuff.
So then I would make a motion to continue the hearing until April 8th. Give us whatever you want, and then we need to continue it again, we can at that point.
Right, and my intention is to file a status report with you guys to at least let you know what's going on. Considering.
Unless you want to continue it beyond that and just get on the agenda for a status report.
I think April
Well, I
8th
mean,
should be
your
good.
April 8th, anything that you do in March is not going to even be worth reporting to us.
Well, at least the start of the vernal pool monitoring, at least.
We
can
don't
talk
allow
about
that until April 1st.
Okay, because his review scope had March dates on it.
Okay, well, whatever,
Well,
he also mentioned potentially going out there in May as well.
March 20th and May 20th.
Yeah,
So we'd have to revise that.
yeah, revise that until the beginning of April, which is, 2 weeks later.
personally, I would do 60 days. And if you want to send us a report for the April 8th meeting, that's fine, but I don't think we need to actually have it on the agenda. We can review the status at
Okay.
that point. I don't think it's necessary for you to come at that meeting. I would, do you think by the first meeting,
For the people.
do you think,
What's the second April meeting?
The 22nd.
22nd?
All right. How about the 22nd then? Because what I want to do is I want to go out in the next, week or two and go take
Yeah.
a look at the area anyway, because it's gotten.
but there's no point bringing everyone back here if we don't have something substantial.
Right, it's gotten warm a little bit early,
Yeah.
so I'm ready.
So why don't we continue it? I'd make the motion to continue this hearing to April
22nd
22nd
at 6:30.
at 6:30. And we schedule everything at 6:30, so that doesn't mean we'll hear him right at 6:30, but
won't be notified of
you will not be notified again. This is your notification.
Under the state regulation and the local bylaw, the initial notification, like, we're just considering moving forward with the notification you guys got by certified mail. When they do continuances at a public meeting like we're doing now, the law requires them to only notify you guys that are here in public of the date and time certain which they just did. It doesn't, no further mailings need to go out. So you really want to make sure that you watch the agendas, or maybe send staff an email saying, hey, I missed the date, things like that, that's all.
This doesn't change the fact that the time that we weren't notified, they lied and said they talked to someone about a buffer zone, so.
I mean, I wasn't here before that, so I'm looking to get this thing moving forward and trying to get this concluded, that's all.
Is there going to be an amendment to the buffer zone?
We don't know what they're gonna plan. That's why he's gonna look at it, and he knows my feeling on that, so
Oh, it's been made perfectly clear what, and it was also in the scope of services that Mr. Rockwell was providing. So what they want me to do is they want me to go out with a peer reviewer and go take a look at what a proposed replication area is that has potential impact your property, and see if there's another area that's suitable that we can move it to. Or spread things out so that buffers don't stand up.
And the other thing we want to verify is that the area they're looking to reclimate isn't already considered wetland.
Yes.
Because we've run into that quite a few times, that they say we're going to reclimate to this area, and then we have the peer review done, and the area they're saying they're going to use is already wetland.
Totally understand that half our
Thank you.
property is wetlands.
So that's exactly what we're trying to find out right now.
somebody here, would you like to come up?
I understand there was two replications.
Come up to the mic so people can hear you from home.
Richard Hanna, 143 Mill Street. I understand there was two replication plans.
Yes.
Is he gonna look at both of them or just one?
I
No, it would be both of them.
Okay,
be looking,
okay. When you just pointed to her, it's like, the other one's gonna affect me. So,
Okay, well, no, thank you for letting me know that.
yeah.
And by the way, the next time I come here in person, I'm gonna be at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
With telephone company, I used to drive the ones that I used to leave at 4:30 in the morning, and it took me 2 hours with no traffic.
I'll tell you, you're better off taking 495 to Bridgewater and coming up 18.
Really?
Yes.
495 the whole way.
495 the whole way to Bridgewater and come up that way.
I was thinking such good time.
Yep, stay away from the Braintree split and route.
Move along, let's move along.
It's not speaking.
My name is Elizabeth George, and I live at 175 Mill Street. I'm trying to make sense of this. The place I'm coming from is nursing. I'm a nurse, I have been a nursing educator and a nursing supervisor at Worcester State Hospital. If any of my students or any of my nurses functioned the way this company has been functioning, they would no longer, the nursing student would not graduate, and the nurse would have his or her license pulled. Full stop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, unanimous.
Okay, so it will be April
22nd.
April
22nd.
22nd will be the
6:30
next
PM is the start of
meeting.
the meeting.
Yes, I will. Did you
Keep the
share that?
commentary on them too.
Nick, did you share
Mr.
that?
Bieber.
Did you share with the rest of the commission?
I'm not sure if I sent it.
They're really awesome.
Yeah, I got a
So
couple more today. I haven't had a chance to look at them.
there's two. Probably babies coming. Yeah.
So, guys, thank you very much. It was nice meeting you all. and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Good luck.
making this productive.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Appreciate you coming.
Nope, we're
Okay.
gonna lose all our
thank you.
fans.
Most I've ever
All
seen.
right,
What's that?
next up on the agenda, request for determination of applicability submitted by, Ardillo Derachia to demolish existing garage located at 237 Rockland Street.
If I knew everybody was gonna leave.
Must've been something you said. Must've been something you said.
I mean, it would have been much easier.
Yeah. Please proceed.
I'm trying to tear down a garage at 237 Rockland Street. We're not disrupting the ground. The slab is staying. It's an insurance issue. They either have to fix it or tear it down. They can't afford to fix it. It would cost probably $70,000 to fix it. It's gonna cost them $13,000 to take it down. They don't use it. They just want it down and gone.
Right, so Nick and Jean and I went out to the site to take a look at it. You were mentioning how you were just gonna take everything down through,
Yeah, so he's gonna
driveway.
pull the excavator in. The dumpster's coming in behind him. He's gonna pull it towards him, turn, dump it in the dumpster. He's already got, the excavation guy already has multiple dumpsters scheduled. They're gonna, once he's done, fill in one. One goes, the other one comes in. He said it'd be done in a day and a half max.
Yeah. And they're leaving the slab, so there's no need to like break up ground, and
Yeah, no.
I don't know if they need any like sediment or erosion control during that time.
It would be, just from looking at the site, pretty difficult
It's
to
very,
install
and
anything.
you've got that weird fence
The
there.
garage is kind of right on the property line, and it's actually the neighbor have wetland that comes right up to. So obviously, it's gonna be important to make sure they're neat, keep it clean, do some cleanup after. But it's gonna be difficult for them to really install anything without going on the, really on the neighbor's property into the wetland.
So,
You know, they're avoiding any ground disturbance to try to make it as limited as possible. There's no proposal to rebuild anything there, from what I've been told.
They're not They'd have no plans on
Yeah,
rebuilding anything.
I just want to make sure with them leaving the slab, does that, do we have to put in writing somewhere? Because I know there's something about previous foundation.
So they would have a couple years zoning wise that they would be
Right.
allowed to rebuild on that foundation. They would have, in my opinion, no right conservation wise to
That's
be
just
able
what I
to
want to make
rebuild
sure.
without filing a notice of intent.
That's just what I want to make sure is 6 months down the road, they decide they want.
Trust me, if you came up to the property, they're not putting anything back there.
I'm just making sure property gets sold, new homeowner sees the foundation,
No,
you know.
they're there for 25 years, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It would,
The only reason where they're working is because the insurance company is gonna cancel them. We said to do their roof, we did their deck, because the insurance company was gonna cancel, or else they wouldn't do anything. And the garage is, I mean, you've seen it,
it needs to come down.
it's dilapidated.
Yeah.
It's actually doing a solid by taking it down.
Yeah.
It's gonna help the area, the neighborhood, everything, so.
So any provisions would be more impact than prevention.
Yeah, I think mostly having, whether it be me or some members go out probably day of and then after the fact, make sure everything gets cleaned up well, things like that. We don't leave a pile of, rubble on top of the foundation that's just gonna slowly drift in. More just checks and balances like that than real regs on this, I think.
All right, so want a negative.
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion for a negative determination.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
You're
We'll
all
get
set.
the paperwork signed for you, filed, signed.
The only thing, bank, they haven't.
Take a look at the one and talk to you.
The, and the back, second page is the electric. Right off, so. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So, what do I do from here?
I'll call you in the morning, pretty much.
All right.
We get it together, get it signed, stuff.
Yeah.
Building permit wise, we'll get it.
Perfect, thank you guys.
Okay, okay. I'm going to skip ahead to 1212 Bedford Street. We have not heard anything from them, so we are going to be letting town council know, and she will take it from there at this point. I had sent his lawyer the same information that everybody has had about the timeline, the PowerPoint presentation I made, everything. He acknowledged receiving it, said he would show it to, he called Mr. DeAndre the respondent, and I said I was looking forward to seeing the wetland contract signed and provided to us, and there hasn't been a response since. So I will email town council tomorrow to let her know, and then it's in her court and she'll start working on going to court. Would you like to come up?
No, Brian Reed, 26 Highland Road. Just, was he actually notified by the sheriff? Was he summoned or anything?
Nick, did you?
The enforcement order was delivered regular mail, certified, and delivered to his attorneys.
And did he sign for it?
I did not receive a signature back for it. His attorneys received an acknowledged receipt.
His attorney acknowledged it?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I'm
Through
curious.
email, they've acknowledged receipt.
Okay.
Anybody notify us?
Yes. Well, when I find more information out, I will definitely let you know what's going on and when there's a court date, and maybe there won't be a court date and they can work it out, so
You're optimistic.
I try. I try.
My only concern was that he could say, I didn't hear about this. That's all.
His attorney.
Yeah, well, he was at the meeting,
Yeah.
right? And his attorney acknowledged receiving the additional information I provided. We gave them the amended enforcement
What
order.
meeting was he at?
When was that?
3 maybe 2?
Yeah.
2 or 3 meetings
At
ago.
least 2 meetings
Yeah.
ago, he was here,
Okay.
and we met his new attorney,
New
and
attorney or the old?
No,
Nope.
new attorney.
new one,
Okay,
number 3.
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Watch the video.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should watch it.
It was interesting.
It was interesting.
I was
You should
called,
watch it.
We didn't realize that he was here for another meeting.
No, he was here
Yeah.
with his new attorney.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
looking for loopholes.
And that's it.
And that's it for now. I will contact town council tomorrow and let her know to take it from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I hope we can get this resolved for you quickly.
Yeah, right.
Been here a long time.
How long has it been? Since 2013.
I was gonna say 10 years, over 10 years.
Yeah, 11.
Long before that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's just,
Okay, so we only have one more thing. This is SC 0804050, request for certificate of compliance filed by John F. Nealon Esquire, located at 128 Bernard Circle. So this is a funny situation. In 1987, there was an NOI filed for Bernard Circle as a subdivision. There were, I think, 6 parcels, Nick? That
There were 6
needed-
parcels, though. They had a partial certificate of compliance for everything except 6 parcels.
6, right, okay. So yes, the Conservation Commission granted them a partial certificate of compliance, so all the lots that didn't need to have an NOI filed, they're good. There were 6 that needed to file an NOI, 3 of which did, 3 of which did not, and they built houses. So 128 Bernard Circle was one of those that did not file for an NOI and built the house, and then they were in the midst of selling it when their lawyer found out that, oh wait, there's an open order conditions. It becomes a little tricky because how do we approve something when there's no paperwork for it? So I spoke with DEP about it, and I talked to Whitney McLeese, who used to be a conservation agent, and she said the way they would handle it is they would go to the houses in the subdivision, make sure that it looked fine, like they didn't put a swimming pool in the backyard right up to the wetland line or something crazy like that. If it looked fine at those houses, then they would give a certificate of compliance for the entire subdivision, and that would clear everybody out. So we have 3 houses that have NOIs. 1 has a certificate of compliance, they're good. 2 have NOIs, their order of conditions expired, so we need them to do it. And then we have the 3. And we visited 128 Bernard Circle. They did sell it, but they put, what, $1,000 into an escrow
I'm
account?
not sure the amount on it, doesn't hold
I
back.
think she mentioned it was 1,000.
Lot 9 is what we're
Yeah.
discussing. That's 128.
So lot 9, 10, and then across the street, 19 also. Although there's no buffer, there's no wetland there anymore, if there was a,
Yeah, so back then, there was the BBW right through here. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 19, all had parts of their property that were at least within 100 feet. I think kind of if 19 decided to build their house right here, they would have been in the buffer. They obviously didn't elect to build their house in that corner. 6, 7, 8, we have NOIs for. 9 and 10 both built their homes closer to the front of the property. You can see the wetland kind of cuts back. They were out of the 100-foot buffer when they built their homes. 19 built it out of the 100-foot buffer as well. The assumption is that's why they didn't follow through with the NOI, but they also didn't follow through with getting their certificate of compliance. So as far as
So
this one's,
if there was never an NOI, why would there be a certificate of
there
compliance?
was an NOI for the whole subdivision with an order of conditions. We had a partial release of every, 3, 4, 5, 18, 11. Bernard Circle's a big subdivision, goes the other way as well. All of those were released just based on the lots themselves being nowhere near a wetland. These ones were held on to because this plan didn't even have homes on it. It's just a subdivision to get the road in. As far as this order of condition concerned, 6, 7, 8 have satisfied what they're supposed to do by filing their NOI. They might not have followed through on their NOI. And then 9, 10, 19, it appears to me they're built outside of the 100-foot buffer.
But they didn't file the NOI, and they were supposed to.
Correct.
And that's the issue, is the lawyer said, hey, there's an open order of conditions, because the subdivision also affects the properties. And the subdivision plan had never been cleared out.
So this property's already been sold once
Yeah,
with an open NOI.
This is
So-
from 1988,
87,
87?
yeah. So,
What was even the buffer in 87?
So,
so there's two different things that needed to be filed, an NOI for the subdivision, and then each of the house that was in the buffer needed also to have their own NOI.
So when they did the
but when
subdivision,
they went to pull a building permit, if they were outside the buffer zone, then that should have,
No, because they still have to file an NOI.
why?
Because you have wetlands on your property.
But if they're outside the buffer zone, they don't have to file it.
You still have to file something.
They should have filed
Because-
first for compliance at the time.
Yeah.
so is the NOI we're looking at from when they put the road in or the house?
The NOI was for the entire subdivision.
The whole,
Let's call it 23 lots. And
So
if
the,
23's number, 17 will
so
go to
the,
certificate of compliance, 6 didn't.
so the open NOI goes back to the original developer.
Correct.
And now each homeowner is stuck.
Well,
With the
each
initial.
homeowner who was not released were told you have to file a separate NOI for your home. And 3 of them did.
So
And
that
3
released them from the initial NOI.
So they would, the 3 who have their own NOI, just,
Are all set
there's,
because,
Well, they
there's,
still need a certificate.
they still
of compliance.
need one of them did sell their house in 2018.
yep,
And they must have realized, oh crap, because all of a sudden they came before conservation. They're closed out, they're good. 7 and 8 have an expired order, so they need to, it's probably, they should be the first 2 people we send the letters to, saying, hey, you probably shouldn't come in. It's the other 3 who didn't file.
did you guys get out to this property?
We went to lot 9.
Yes.
So did you see any infractions on the property, any signs of anything?
No, it looked, to me, it looked fine.
We had a pretty good view of lot 10 too,
Yeah,
which
Looks
and lot
close to the street,
13, or
too.
19 as well.
Yeah.
It's,
19 is.
it
high-
looks
high and
fine.
dry.
So I think the thing to do with this, it's a complicated situation because they didn't do the paperwork they should have done, but whatever, we're not gonna tear their houses down, is,
Is that an option?
it could be, but I'm not gonna recommend that. Is to look at site at number 10. I'm not even worried about 19. I mean, we just looked at it from the street and it's like, we don't really need to do anything, but inform all of them that we need to get everything cleared out for the subdivision. Then those 3 lots are done. So we need a site walk at lot 10.
and this is for one lot?
This is for one of the 3 lots that should have filed but didn't.
But
I still
wouldn't that
don't
be
understand.
under the developer from 87, I'm just thinking if that was my house, I'd be pretty upset if I had to do anything of substance. Because I mean,
I just don't understand why it was
40
an
years ago.
issue if they, I can see what probably happened. is
Sure.
They went
Yeah, I
to the
get you.
building inspector and said, here's the plot plan, here's what we're building, and it's outside the buffer zone, and he said, you don't have to buy it.
That's
Whoever it was at that time.
what I imagined too. I wasn't a building inspector in 87.
Or
You
they-
weren't born.
were you with us? I was just gonna say that, were you here?
My parents are up and running.
What's the easiest way to kind of push it? It just seems like,
So,
it's just a
this is
paper
my
one
idea.
here.
Then-
So the COC request we got, the actual request, it does say 128, but it doesn't ask for a partial. So I don't know if we want to treat that as a request for all 6.
So what my thought is, based on what talking to Whitney, is we go to lot 10.
Yep,
I know you went over there and talked to the owner a little bit, but it was a little tricky.
she's a very nice woman. I believe her son's the best one to get involved and help with some of her
Yeah.
communication.
We just do a very quick site walk. And then we tell
All 6 of them.
and lot 19 that we need
Just a
to
simple
file.
form, fill it out, and then
Just
it
fill this
clears up
out,
your deed and everything.
And then the
Yeah.
whole thing will be
Yeah.
done.
All right.
And everybody will get cleared out, except the two that still have the open order, and we can deal with that separately.
Yeah, they could still be cleared off of
The subdivision part would
8450,
be,
it's just
yeah.
their other.
But we still need their two NOIs to be done.
So for this one here, we want a motion to approve the certificate of compliance.
We can't do it though, because if we do that, that clears everybody out.
So,
And then, but we haven't really had a look yet at lot 10.
So why did this lawyer send us this?
He was in the middle of selling, he was a lawyer for the people selling it, and then they realized, wait a minute, there's an open order of conditions for the subdivision, which was
So-
on their,
this person's sale of their house is going to be held up by the neighbor
it was
submitting?
going to be, but what they decided to do is they sold it, and then
Okay.
they put $1,000 in an escrow account.
Okay.
So we met her, she's super nice, she actually is thinking about putting in a fence and was asking us questions about that, so it's not a rush by any means.
So we don't do anything on this one then?
And this one, what I think we should do is talk to the owner of the 10th lot, tell the owner of the 19th lot, this is what's going on, have them file, and boom, 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 we close it out in one hearing.
So this one NOI has 3 plots attached to it.
The subdivision? It's
Yes.
6.
Yeah, it had 21 and now it's,
At 21, then it was approved for all but the 6.
So the original, sorry to cut you off, go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So we need 6 separate we need applications from all 6?
No. So.
I'm just trying to.
I know, it's really complicated. So, what that should have happened is that each one of those would have filed their own NOI. 3 of them did.
Yep, so those 3
So
are all
those
set.
3 are, one of them already got their certificate of compliance. We don't ever have to worry about them again.
So,
The other 2, they're gonna need to come in at some point to get
Okay.
their certificate of compliance. I don't even wanna think about that right now. We can just send them the letter.
okay,
that
so
we're
if,
they
talking
fulfilled
about.
their obligation
so
for
if
this
this,
one.
so if this
Yeah.
address filed an NOI, then they could go for a certificate of completion and it would close, it would alleviate them from the developer's NOI.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at
this is
this,
the only way I can think of
Is
doing
this
it.
showing up on their deeds?
Yes.
Yes.
is.
I'm just trying to think, if a neighbor doesn't cooperate, I'd be rather, there's gotta be a way we can alleviate one deed without involving other
Why
deeds.
can't we do this one?
Why can't we just close the
Because if we
original?
close that out, we close everybody else's out.
So why would we not
So-
want to do that? That's our honest question.
Because we still need to look at lot 10 and make sure that they've complied.
But that's 40 years ago.
I know, but we still have to make sure that it complies. All we have to do is get their approval to do a very quick site walk. If it looks good, we just notify everybody.
So does lot 10 have to apply for anything?
Lot 10 would have to do the same thing, and lot 19, and then we could just, done. The whole subdivision would be done.
But just playing devil's advocate, like if lot 10, that's the little old lady from what I
Yeah.
understand. I mean, if there is a violation, are we gonna tell her to go clear out our social
No.
security and fix it?
No, no.
That's why I
no.
say maybe we just,
I mean, just from kind of peeking over there, it looked pretty much like it was fine. Lot 19, I'm not even worried about, like, we saw it, like, we were standing right in the front of
As
their
close
house
to the
is
house
right
as
there.
all the road.
I
Yeah.
just don't wanna make this
So why
lady
don't,
have to go through.
We're not gonna make them tear their houses down.
No, I mean, but even going through paperwork and everything.
I know, but
And
that's the thing.
I just don't want this to be held against us because we got that nice 6-page pack at the last meeting of all these open NOIs and everything. I want to make sure whatever we do with this doesn't get held against us if another one of these situations
Well,
arises.
if the woman in lot 10 decides to sell her house and everything's not closed out properly,
Right, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, whatever we do, we need to make sure we establish a standard for, because
Well-
we're gonna run into this more and more as we
Yeah.
try to close out all these loose ends.
yeah.
so the only thing we can do is notify the other 2 and ask them to file this.
Yep.
And then that'll be it.
That's
We can
it.
do the site walk at Law 10.
So then no action on this.
No, no action on this tonight, but hopefully we get this done, cleared out. It's all good.
So Nick, are you gonna get in touch with those other two?
No problem.
Okay.
And, we'll set up a site walk and do it. Let's see if we can wrap it up before the next meeting.
Yeah. And I think we don't have any building permits, site visits,
No,
correspondence.
nothing that wasn't discussed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.